Today, you'll be listening in on a mentor call with German photographer Fabienne. She's living in Sweden, and actually, while we're recording this, she's traveling in Norway. But she wants to be a professional photographer, and we're talking about how she can get started. You're listening to Sustainable Photography, where you get support and education to build your profitable business in a way that supports your way of living. I'm Ingvild Kolnes, and after 11 years as a photographer, I want to share what I've learned with you. So if you're looking for confidence, inspiration, and to-the-point tips, keep listening. For full transparency, I also want you to know that I'm a mentor with paid offers, and I might mention some of those in this episode. Hi, Fabienne. Why don't you start by introducing yourself and tell me some of your story?
I'm Fabienne, and at the moment in Norway. I'm usually studying in Sweden. I'm 25 years old, and I have been photographing many years already, and I would really like it to take it from like the hobby to a job because I enjoy it so much. And there's a lot of question marks in my head, but I hope to figure it out.
Have you had any paid jobs so far?
Yeah. So just a small thing from university though. So some organization came up to me and they're like, hey, we kind of have a lack of a portrait photographer, and they needed portrait pictures, and I think I also got a little money for it. But yeah, nothing big official.
No, but you've started. You've taken the first step. And what about your photography experience? Are you a new photographer, or are you just new and wanting to have it as a business?
I got my first camera when I was 11, because on holidays I always stole the camera of my dad, which was like almost as big as my head. And then for Christmas, when I was 11, I got my first DSLR. It was still like a entry camera, of course. And since then, it's always lived with me. And it always stuck with me, taking pictures of, first of all, I started with flowers. I took a lot of pictures of every flower because it could move. I could concentrate on what I do with all the settings and stuff. And then my dad took me to some workshops to practice macro photography for flowers. And then eventually I went traveling a lot. So I moved on to like landscapes. And then eventually I got into street photography and kind of fell in love with photographing people and emotions, and like kind of trying to tell stories with the pictures. And that eventually also led into more portrait photography. And then the last year, I think I was at 2 weddings as well, kind of like as a friend, but I asked them, hey, can I also take pictures, just because I enjoy it so much? So they had like another photographer going on. So I was kind of like second shooter, but not very official. And then I also sat down editing and kind of sent the pictures over to them. And that it was just so nice for me also to see the joy they have, like when they receive like nice pictures that maybe also give angles that the normal photographer doesn't catch because he's busy taking all the must-have pictures. So I got shots of like the candid moments in between, and that's why I kind of started to think, oh, maybe this is something I could start going down that road.
Yeah, that's really nice, because you'd like to do couples or weddings, or what's your goal?
Yeah, that's a good question. I enjoy so much. But as I also like being outdoors a lot, I kind of caught an eye on like the whole adventure and outdoor elopement sessions, but then also like kind of smaller intimate weddings with not as much going on, and like just like a little bit more intimate. They can focus on like the couple and capture like the relationships that are happening, which is, I haven't never been to such a big wedding, but I think it's super hard if there's like 700 people around and so much going on. And yeah, so kind of like a little bit smaller. And then also maybe couple shoots outside.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites as well. The bigger weddings are a little bit more impersonal. Like they can be harder to kind of get to the core of the meaning sometimes. So I definitely understand you wanting to do smaller ones.
Yeah. And I mean, since my history of photography has always been work with what I have, I am hugely not afraid, but I have a lot of respect for people that work with like lots of flashes and reflectors and all that. So I mostly just try to work with the light I have. And so I'm more like outdoor natural light photography, I think.
Yeah, no, I understand. There can be a lot to keep track of. And especially if you like to be outdoors, it can be a lot of extra just worries to carry all your stuff. And learning to work with what you have is definitely helpful. Do you want to work now that you live or do you want to live in Sweden? Do you plan on doing photography for work there? That's your goal? You want to be a full-time photographer?
I mean, that would be the ideal, but I'm also well aware that it might not work out. And probably it's also clever to like maybe start work, maybe like a 50 or 75% job somewhere, and then kind of like have a little bit of wiggle room in terms of financials to get it started. And so ideally that would be a dream, but I don't know if that's going to work out. So I might just have to look for something else too.
No, I understand. There's it's quite common to have a part-time job in the beginning, which it does leave you with a lot more flexibility, because then you can do things more how you want to do it, instead of having that feeling of, I just have to say yes to anything that comes my way because I'm relying on this money. If you have a part-time job, then you're more able to do things the way you want to. And people work in different ways, but some people need to not have a job so that they are forced to figure it out. They have to make it work. So it depends. I definitely felt a huge difference when I had a job and when I quit my part-time job, because then I had to make it work.
And I think also, even though it's a part-time job, it still takes up a lot of your time. And I think establishing your own business also takes up a lot of time. There's a lot to think about, and so I guess it's also like kind of distracting. So I get both parts. I don't know which is the right way.
No, I think you just have to figure it out as you go when you don't really know, and see just what works. Maybe it'll be really easy for you and you won't need to have a part-time job, or maybe you'll want to have one just so that you'll feel more at ease. There's no right or wrong.
All right. I was wondering, especially I'm now at the edge, like, where do I start? And then I read a little bit online, and people said it's a good idea to get second shooter opportunities, which I've done like privately before, but I was wondering how I could get like other opportunities to second shoot with other photographers.
Well, there's probably a lot of different ways to do it. You can do it more like as a job, like trying to apply for a second shooting job with a photographer who needs it. But usually you'll get second shooting opportunities through your network. So if you don't really have photographers in your network now, I recommend trying to build your network, like using Instagram to reach out to people and just becoming friends with other photographers. I get some inquiries every now and then from photographers who just ask me, can I second shoot at a wedding you do? And I don't know them. They haven't introduced themselves. I don't know anything about them. So I don't feel like that's the best way to go about it. So I would say since you know you want to do this, try to play like the long game and don't think of it as a game. Just be actually interested in people and try to become friends with people. And Instagram is a great way to do that. There might be like some local networks or photography groups or organizations where you want to live. Maybe if you get to know people better through Instagram, you can meet a few of them like in real life. Do like a get together or something like that. There's probably a bunch of Facebook groups you can use, like my own, to ask if there's anyone in your area or if someone knows someone in your area that you can get to know. And sometimes it might not be the person you get to know, but it might be someone they know or someone they know that you can collaborate with, or you can help each other do a styled shoot together. It doesn't have to be necessarily you working at someone else's wedding. Maybe you can do something fun together. Maybe you can take pictures of other photographers, as well as, using your friends and family as well, and see if they know someone. You never know who might know someone.
And that's a good idea to maybe not go fully directly into it. So you usually say, if you get like a direct inquiry and you haven't interacted with them before, you would usually say, maybe not.
Yeah, because I wouldn't know who they are. I don't know how, because if I bring someone along to my wedding, they're representing me and my brand. And if I don't know how they are, how they would behave themselves, I don't feel like that's a very good idea. So for me, I probably wouldn't say yes. But if it's someone I know, that they know what they're doing, like just in terms of like what's okay to do at a wedding or not, then that's a completely different situation. So I would recommend just becoming friends with someone before asking them something like that. And also, it's a matter of how you phrase it. If you say, can I come to a wedding and photograph because I need the photos, then it's like, well, that's all about you. So if you want to ask someone directly, at least present it in a way that benefits the person you're asking. Like, I can help, I can carry stuff, I can bring you water, like whatever you can, like that. Because having someone as a second shooter, having someone with you at a wedding day, it's not helpful, it's stressful. It adds on to the main photographer's workload. At least it always has for me. Like, you have more photos to go through, you have more photos to edit, you have to like actually ask the couple, they have to have a place for them to sit and eat. I mean, it does add on to it. There can be a lot of stress involved. You have to do extra planning. I would definitely be careful about the way I ask. And again, just try to build your own network. And it's okay if it's people who are less experienced than you, people who are more experienced like you. Having a mix of people would really be beneficial to everybody, because you never know. It's also a great way to get clients down the road.
That's a really good tip too. I mean, kind of read it somewhere else before as well, that it's so important to build your network. Yeah, especially in a new country, I think it's just very hard to start as well, because at home, I mean, my mom has friends, my sister has friends, and I mean, I also have friends that have friends, and it's like easy to get started, while this here is like, okay, I'm moving in that town, I don't know anyone.
Do you know where you're going to live in Sweden?
Probably in Örebro.
Okay, so if someone's listening to this, who happen to be in Örebro, then they have to reach out to you.
Oh, in Stockholm, I mean, it's not too far. So yeah, it would be nice. I always love getting to know other like-minded people, connect in that sense.
That's good. And doing like workshops and stuff, that's been a place I've always met new photographers, like just finding workshops that speak to you when it comes to like the aesthetics and things you would like to learn and that kind of stuff. And then you're bound to meet someone there. And if they're local to you, then that's a really good start. But people you meet now can be in your network for years and years and years. So that's why it's a good idea to not disregard someone just because they're in a different place than you, because down the road you might be in the same place.
Yeah, that's very true. How to start, how to get started, from getting your first second shoot opportunity, and also to get your first client, and then also the question of the first clients, is it friends and family, and how much do you charge them, if you charge them at all, and then how do you move from that, okay, hey, I want to build my portfolio, and maybe you want to have a photo shoot, so I can give you a free photo shoot, so I have pictures, but when do you and how do you move from that free basis to like a paid photo shoot? I think it's super hard.
So when you're trying to get your first clients, having that network again, that's a really good start, because you're bound to meet someone who are getting clients or inquiries that they can't take on. So that can be like a really good way to get clients, like through people you know, whether that's your friends and family or whether that's through another photographer or another kind of vendor. Like if you get to know, for example, a hairstylist or something like that do bridal work, then maybe that's a way to get clients. So your networking consists of lots of different kinds of people. I mean, it's basically everyone you meet can be in your network. So that's definitely a huge part of it. And you need to have a portfolio. Do you currently have a portfolio? Do you have any photos to show?
That's the other problem. I mean, I have been to those 2 weddings that I was talking about, so I have some pictures of that. But then mostly I have like single portraits, which is not really the type of picture that not the type of client that I'm looking for. So I think I first also have to build my portfolio, which also is then how am I getting to that point? I mean, I could ask friends and family, but then also I'm moving to a new country where I don't know people. So it's all kind of like my big question mark is how to get started. But I think that should be solvable. I thought about maybe in the university, just like go there and ask around who might be up for a photo shoot or something.
Yeah. And I also think when it comes to a portfolio, it's often a bit overrated. Some of my favorite photographers to follow, for example, on Instagram, they do photograph weddings and families and all that kind of stuff, but that's not necessarily what they share the most of. They use their everyday life and they share that. So because the pictures you take, they will have your style and your special touch to them, no matter what they're of. So definitely don't disregard. Now you're traveling around Norway, make sure you take pictures and you use them to share, because you get chosen as a photographer based on your personality and who you are, not just because of your pictures. So don't think that having a big portfolio is the key to getting anywhere. Making sure you can present your style and who you are is just as important. And as I mentioned before, doing workshops and setting up some styled shoots might be a really good idea. Like if you know a couple, for example, asking them, hey, can you get dressed up and we can go to somewhere really nice and take some photos? That might be a really good idea, because then you're getting something that represents what you actually want to do as well. But you don't need to have tons of it. I think that's where a lot of photographers get it wrong. They think that they need to have photos from every place they might ever want to take pictures at before they get work there. And that's not really the case. You need to take good pictures and you need to know what you're doing, but you don't need to have everything represented. So talking about what you want to do, like writing about it on your website and on Instagram is maybe even more important than having that exact thing. Just a quick interruption to remind you not to underestimate your website. Even though your clients might be finding you in other places, chances are high that they're still checking out your website, and there are some tweaks you can make to make sure that you get the most out of it. After all, shouldn't your website be working for you? Don't miss tomorrow's free website challenge, so go to the show notes to find the link to sign up. Most of the time I shoot in places I've never been. But I've maybe talked about the place, and I use other pictures as illustrations, even though they're not at that place. I can still say, I wouldn't say like this is at that place, but I can still say like, here's this picture, and I can still use, for example, a location as a hashtag on Instagram, even though it's not that place. So there are a lot of different ways you can do things. So just keep that in mind, that it's not about making the biggest portfolio, but make sure it just represents what you want to keep doing, and use your everyday life, both for practice and also to share your style and who you are. Except for that, I would say that the best way of getting clients is marketing. You have to make sure that you're sharing what you want to do. Instagram is really good. SEO and Google, really good. If you want to pay for it and you want to kind of get a head start, doing ads can be really powerful. But you have to know what you're doing first. You have to know who you want to work with, because just posting just to post and just creating ads and paying to get clicks doesn't really help if you're not in front of the right people. I actually have like a PDF guide on how to book your first clients. I can send you a link to that, and I can post it in the show notes as well if someone else is interested, because that can really, because that can give you like just a little bit of a reminder of what you need to focus on in a way. And you also have to remember that there's not a right way or a wrong way to do this, but if you put effort into what you do now, it's going to help you to get so much further, so much faster. I think that the way I did it when I set up my business was not good. I think I would do it in a completely different way now if I could. So that's what I always recommend people to do. Like, don't do what I did, because that wasn't very good. So I would say to take yourself seriously. If you know you want to be a photographer, just take yourself seriously straight away, because that way others will take you more seriously. I started off being like a hobby photographer, and I didn't really charge anything, and I didn't think I was good enough to do anything. So it took me so many years before I could do anything with my photography. I just kind of had to start over again all the time, because I didn't really know what I was doing. But you say you want to do like smaller weddings and more adventure stuff. Do you know what you want to offer? Have you thought about it in your mind, like who you want to work for and what you want to do? Is it like, do you want to do just like shorter portrait sessions? Do you want to do all day things? Have you given it any thought?
I've thought a little bit about like personas and stuff, because that's also what we learned in uni. So I kind of built like one or two personas, and then like how I would want them to be. I mean, in order also that they fit with how I am, because I mean, for example, I'm not very into that the makeup is very perfect, or like that every like strand of hair is like in a perfect place. I would rather like concentrate on like the emotion that's going on, and not kind of like jump in the most important moments and like trying to fix something because it's not perfect enough. And I mean, like I said, I'm very outdoorsy, and like if it's a little bit of dirt on the shoot, and that's okay. So I'm kind of like also want to attract that kind of person, because I think that's also the person that would like me the best, and that we would work together. And I think that's so important. Also, I'm here in this volunteering place, and I just feel so at home because the people are kind of like in the same space as I am. So I think that's super important to attract the same people, so they also get the most out of what I do or what I would do. And then in terms of length, I also thought about like longer sessions, like kind of including the hike to like a mountaintop or something, but also shorter sessions. So kind of like offering different packages, but I'm not quite sure if I would have to get more specific, or if I go better off like having a package that kind of like would suit everyone in their own way. But it's also another question, like, do you go broad and offer like many different things, or do you want to go like more in a niche and like specialize in something? That's also a big question in my head. Because also in terms of photography, I'm coming from, I love details like close-ups and stuff, but also like to include the nature around. So it's like two very different things, and it's hard to either offer everything or just like one of the things. That was a very confusing answer. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. No, I get where you're coming from. No, I don't think you are. I think you know what you want. Because you know what you want to offer. And I don't see that there's a reason why you shouldn't specialize when you know what you want to do. I think if you're starting out and you don't really know what you want to do, it's a good idea to try different things, because then you'll figure out, it's a great way to figure out what you want to do, but you know what you want to do. So there's no reason why you should try to do other things than that when you're so clear about who you are and what you want to do. So I also think it's a good idea to offer different packages, but not like a bunch of different ones, because then our potential clients will end up really confused and they don't really know what to choose. So I usually say, like, if you can stick to 3 different packages, then do that. And just try not to overwhelm them. And in terms of your love of details as well as landscapes, I have that too. And for me, that's just that's a strength. That's something that adds to my packages, because when we go out, for example, on an elopement day, I tell the whole story. So of course, both the landscape and the little details are all a part of that. So I would say just keep doing that. That's a good thing. I think most people really appreciate having all the different aspects taken pictures of, and I think it helps them to remember all the things that happen, and they'll be impressed with how you saw things that they might not have noticed. So yeah, I'd say keep it up.
Thank you. One question again, speaking about the Instagram, like right now, I have a personal Instagram where I also share like most of my travel stuff, and like also in the stories, just kind of like funny things, what the dogs did, for example. But I'm not sure if they're really supposed to be on like that photography Instagram account, because now I keep them like very separate. And as I'm more traveling right now, not really working as much on my portfolio, also the photography account is kind of quiet. And not really, I mean, I have started like a month ago, so there's not much happening there anyway. But I've been also kind of confused because some people have been telling me, hey, keep it very like separate and only post the things on your photography account that you also want to attract. So I talked to one photographer and she was like, yeah, I also do a lot of maternity stuff and family, but I don't share it on my Instagram, because on my Instagram, I want to focus on the client that comes for couple sessions and like elopements and stuff. And she also doesn't really share much personal stuff, while as you say it more the other way around. So maybe that's also not the perfect way for everyone. But I'm very confused as to what is too private, and like, should I maybe put both accounts together? Because I mean, it's me after all.
Yeah. That's definitely also an area where there's not like a right or a wrong answer. The way I see it is that most photographers that are working the way we are, it's just us being our business basically, then your personality becomes really important. Who you are becomes really important. So if you share more of yourself, then that's a benefit, because people who work with us, they want something personal. They're choosing us to be with them on their wedding day. I mean, it doesn't really get much more personal than that. So they want to know a bit more about who you are. They want to get to know you and your personality and what your interests are. Usually when I get booked, my clients have found something that we have in common, whether that's that we have dogs or that we like chocolate, or, you know, we have something in common, because then they feel like they trust me more. So that's why I'm saying to incorporate some of your personality into your business, because you are your business. That's just how it is. But you choose some parts that are more visible than others. And I think that's the case for our personal Instagrams as well. We don't share everything on Instagram. So I've seen very few people who have been successful in having more than one Instagram account, because dealing with Instagram is a lot of work. It's a lot of energy you put into it. You have to comment back to people. You have to put out posts. You have to do stories and reels and all that stuff. And doing that on one account, that's a lot of work. Doing that on 2 accounts, for most people, it's not possible. So they'll stick to doing one account. And most people also have a personal account, which is doing okay. Some people's personal accounts are doing great. And then they start a second account, and then they have to build it from scratch. So then they're kind of losing all the people or all the followers they had on the main account or the first account. which means that they're losing out on so much. And you never know who might be interested in what you have to offer. So for me, I would say stick to one account because of the energy it takes, because and especially in the beginning, when you say you don't have that much like work to share, you have so much other things though, like from your travels and stuff. And people are bound to be interested in that. And who knows, when you keep posting, maybe someone in an area you're at will be like, hey, I want photos from this place. Maybe when you're volunteering where you are, maybe you can take pictures of some of the people you're working with. And you just never know. And in terms of what's too private, that's one thing only you can decide. But usually it helps if you think of some things that you and your dream client have in common. Like, do you have in common that you both like to travel? Do you have in common that you like dogs? Do you have in common that you like photography? Just try to think some things that you have in common and post those things. And then you don't have to share every time you have a bad day or what you have for lunch, or it's not like you have to share everything. Just try to think like, what do you have in common and what's like outside of what you're comfortable with. Some people with kids, they're uncomfortable sharing their kids. Some people don't want to share where they live. Some people, it's just up to you. And I think some people don't want their personality to be part of their brand. Some people want to be strictly professional. And I think that's fine too. It's just a matter of being clear about what's right for you. But I think it's easier if you allow yourself to be a part of it, because then you don't have to like put on your professional jacket every time you go into a room. You'll just be yourself. And I think that's a great way to be able to stick with this job for a long time, because it is a lot of work and most of us make it like a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point, and helped so much hearing you say that with the personal account as well, that you never know who might be interested. And yeah, it's super valuable. And I mean, what you said with the personality, it's also one reason why I want to do this as a job, because I mean, also my mom said to me, it's like, hey, I don't really see you sitting in an office 8 hours a day. And it's like, hey, this is why I want to do this photography, because it's me, it's what I enjoy. It's when you get home after even just taking pictures for yourself, or like here on the Husky farm, and I'm like, hey, I'm really looking forward to look at these pictures. And then you find these 5 pictures and are like, oh, they're really cool. And then kind of, yeah, it's so much joy in that. It makes me happy as well. And then making other people happy with what makes me happy seems like seems like a dream job. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, and I just thought of something as well in terms of that 2 accounts thing. I followed someone on Instagram for the longest time, and she took the most amazing landscape photos. It was just very recently that I realized that she had another account where she did like portraits and weddings and that kind of stuff. And I had no idea. And she probably had like tens of thousands of people on her landscape account. And just imagine all those people who have been missing out on getting her to take their picture because they didn't know that she did that as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was also in my head, especially when I wrote all the questions, if there's even space, because I mean, nowadays with especially all the new phones and stuff, it gets better and better, and there's so many photographers out there. So I was wondering, is there even, especially in that adventure elopement style intimate wedding, is there even space? Like, how many people are really getting married and want to have a photographer with them? So I was wondering that. And then I think I also asked you on Facebook already that, like, how is the market, especially in Scandinavia, for all that elopement and outdoor stuff? Because coming from Germany, I know that there is quite a lot of a market for that, because people are really outdoors, like all the van life and stuff. But I was wondering how it is up here in Scandinavia as well.
So I think being a photographer now is very different than what it was probably about 30 years ago, because before it wasn't that common to have a camera. So people went to a photographer to have like a good picture of their kids, for example, or their wedding photos. But now everyone, as you say, everyone has a camera. So that's also why I'm saying that your pictures and your portfolio isn't enough to get you booked. You have to share a little bit of your personality and a little bit of what you're planning on giving your couple then, in addition to just photos, because they usually want something more. They usually want some kind of an experience, something that is outside of just like a pretty picture. And for you, that can be, for example, just presenting to them the idea of having an outdoor experience and hiking in the mountains, for example, and just presenting that as like an adventure idea. Then that's something more than just being a photographer. When it comes to elopements, that's not really a big thing in Norway, unfortunately. I'm not really sure how it is with Sweden, but I know that in Denmark, it's really easy to just get married. I'm doing an elopement next week where the couple, they're getting married in Denmark, but they're coming here to Norway to have their photos because it's so easy for them to get married in Denmark. The paperwork is so much less. And they live in Germany actually as well. So yeah, my point is that it's not that common, but it's very common in the US, for example. And it's also a trend that what's popular in the US, it comes to Norway. It just takes a little bit longer. And especially with the corona situation and everything, bigger weddings aren't possible. So more people have seen that smaller weddings are equally nice, if not nicer. So that's also going to be very helpful. But I do think that getting Scandinavians to elope will maybe take a little bit more of an effort. Like you'll have to sell them on the idea, which is why, again, Instagram is such a powerful thing. And especially if you're using your own personal account, because then you can talk about how amazing it is and more people will know that that's a thing. I have friends who don't know what an elopement is. They don't understand the concept of it. And then when I explain it, they're like, wow, that sounds amazing. Because they don't know that it's possible, because people are so stuck in tradition, thinking like getting married can only happen in this one way. So I think that's a huge thing. Just don't think that by creating a new account, all the right people are going to find you. You probably have to sell them on the idea. So you might as well just start with the people who are already following you. So yeah, I think that's a good way of doing it. Just trying to convince people or explaining to people what eloping is and how they can have a cool adventure and what's in it for them, basically. And except for that, I would say just be yourself. Just work on finding your style, because there's definitely room for everyone. But I also want to add that choosing to have low prices, that's not really going to be helpful. It doesn't make it easier to get booked. You have to try to be as visible as you can. And you're likely to get further if you start off being serious and having the prices that you need to have instead of hiding behind low prices. Because I think that's often what photographers do. They have low prices because they think that that's going to help them, that's going to be, more people will book me if my prices are low. That's definitely what I thought when I was starting out. I had low prices. I did get booked. But then the following year, when their friends were getting married, then I was out of their budget because I had increased my prices, because I gradually increased my prices year by year. So I had to start over again every single year. So it took a really long time. So that's why it might take you longer in the beginning. I think it's common to think that you have to start with low prices, but it doesn't actually get you booked. And certainly not with the right clients. You might get more like budget clients in the beginning, but that's just going to be more work for you. So to build a portfolio, it's usually better to start off with your your friends and people that you ask, do you want to be a model for me, rather than getting actual inquiries and giving them low prices, because that's probably going to hurt you more than help you. And while we're talking prices, I think it's a good idea to start by actually working out your prices, figuring out, okay, so this is how much I need to make a living, then, and I want to have this many shoots every year, then these are the prices I need to have. So you need to work out your prices and just really figure out what you need to charge from, if you're going to make a living from photography. And those are the prices that you should use. But you can, of course, have like an introductory price in the beginning. And of course, you can also, as I said, use your friends and family to model for you. But if you start advertising sales and low prices, I think that's going to hurt both you and the industry in the long run. So that's why I don't recommend it. But if you want to have a discount to start, just make it clear like what your actual prices are, and make it clear that these lower prices are temporary, and also why you have them. I just have to interrupt myself here to remind you to sign up for the free website workshop tomorrow, Wednesday, January 19th. If you put in a little bit of effort now, your website can be working for you for years to come. All that effort you put into Instagram, I mean, it's not wasted, but you can get so much more with so much less energy by fixing up your website. Join the free website workshop that I'm hosting tomorrow, and I'll add a link to the show notes, so head on over there to check it out. When I started, I had lower prices than those around me, and I felt like it's obvious that I'm not as good as them because my prices are so low, so I don't need to explain it. But of course, it's not obvious to someone else. They just see these low prices and they think, oh, we got a bargain here. So just make it clear, like, you're building a portfolio. That's why my prices are low. It's just for everything that's happening these next 3 months, and then my prices are going up. And just make sure that your mindset is kind of tuned into the fact that it's not easier to get clients just because you have low prices, and the fact that you need so many more to make a living from it if your prices are low. So, yeah, I hope that helps.
Been kind of thinking about that point as well, and also listen to some of your podcasts where that's also a topic. So I grasp the idea of that it's maybe not the best idea to just give everything out like super, super cheap without explaining why. Another question I have is because you said you have to figure out how much it would take me to make a living, and then figure out how many shoots I would have a year. But that's something, there's so many question marks. Like, it would be at best an estimate, because I mean, I'm moving to a new country. I don't know what how many people would even want a photo shoot, and then how is it with seasonal changes, because I guess there's more in summer than there is in winter, and like all that kind of comes to the conclusion that I would have no idea how to say this and this many I would do a year or could do a year, because I mean, that's also down to how many inquiries do I get. So how did you go about calculating that without having any sort of number to refer to?
Well, I've never taken how many inquiries I get as a basis for how much I need to charge, because I just think about it the other way around. Like, I know I need this many, so then I need to make sure I get that many inquiries, kind of thing. Yeah, just so you have a basis. And you have to just know that in the beginning, maybe the first couple of years, it's going to be guesswork. That's how it is for everybody. But at least if you know what you need to make as a wage, and you kind of know your business expenses, then you'll have a starting point. And then just try to think, like, how much can I work? And then base it on that, instead of like, how many inquiries do I get? Because you have to do the work of actually getting enough inquiries. And if you think about it as a year instead of per month, then you know that, okay, so I need 12 weddings, but 10 of those are going to happen within May and September. Then you kind of know how to schedule it out.
That makes a lot of sense to think about it in that direction. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that has been holding me back in general is I'm a little perfectionist and want to plan and know everything before I start something. Um, but it's quite impossible to do that. So at some point, I was like, I might as well just start because I can't figure it out beforehand anyway. But it's kind of like there's so many topics that you don't really know what's happening, and it's a little bit daunting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm the same. I want to know everything and I want to have everything planned out, and I don't like it when my plans don't happen the way I think they will. But you really don't have a choice when when you're doing this because you don't really know. What helps is that if maybe for you you want to have people who book you in a long time in advance, because then you'll be able to fill your calendar ahead of time so you know what's happening, and then you're free to turn down everything you don't want to do. That always helps, but it could take some time before you get there, so you just have to be patient. Yeah,
I think so.
yeah. But if you work on marketing, there's nothing that says you can't get all the people you need well ahead of time.
And some said, hey, it's a good idea to focus on customer service because that's kind of going to set you apart. And other people said it's experiences that will set you apart from other people. But I guess I kind of found the answer that it's also up to the person. Like, if it's my thing to do an experience, then that's the thing I should set myself apart from. And no one else can really answer that for me, I think. Just have to find out. I don't know if you have something to say.
Yeah, no, I think you're very right. And I think that's pretty much what I would say too, that it's up to you to develop your brand. And then you have to just put emphasis on what you think is important and what you think that your dream client wants. Because there's, again, no right or wrong. But how, as you said, like customer service and experiences are definitely important. But how that looks and feels, that's really up to you to decide. Because what's professional and on brand for me is probably not for you. So you just have to think like what's important to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is a lot to figure out and think about.
It is. Yeah. There's a lot to figure out when you're starting a business, doing something new. But you can definitely do it.
Especially if you have low prices and you just attract, I think you called them budget clients that are more looking for just a cheap price instead of if it would work like on a personal basis as well. So I think we kind of touched on that already, that it's a good idea to focus on the dream client and kind of work towards them and not try to turn around at some point, because that's all doing all the work again.
It is, yeah. Definitely. And that's why I'm saying if you do the things right now, then you don't have to start over again all the time, because you are very clear about what you want to do. So then just go with it.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you shouldn't just go all in.
Yeah, it was more a question like, is there even like space? And I mean, even especially looking at more experienced photographers like you, and like there's some others that I found doing some research to do elopements in Sweden, and I look at their pictures and I'm like, oh wow, that looks incredible. And probably all the people that want to do elopements find their webpage and like want to have them do the photo shoot. So it was more like the self-doubt coming in. It's like, hey, is there even space? Can I even only concentrate on my dream client and kind of make a living out of it?
Yeah. Well, that's where your personality comes in, because you are who you are and someone would prefer you over me or anyone else. So that's why it's important that you share a bit about who you are. And especially, I think if you're willing to do like videos and stuff, people will easily see more about like your personality quicker. So if you do that, then you can get like ahead of the game. And you just never know, because I've had those thoughts so many times as well. Like, why would someone choose me when there are these other photographers around I don't really understand? And yet someone has chosen me again and again. So it does happen. You just have to get found by the right people.
Yeah. It's so great to hear that also, like in that context. I think there's a lot of just go for it and believe in yourself, which also has a lot, for me personally, to do a lot with also self-development in a sense. Kind of just trying to get more self-confident and believe in that I actually can deliver something or like create value for someone else.
Yeah. It comes with you have to practice. You just have to sometimes do things even though you aren't feeling like you know what you're doing, and then you just have to try it, and then that confidence is going to come
over time
just by doing. But it doesn't mean that it's not scary, but it's going to get better. Definitely.
I think it's super comforting also to hear from established photographers how they started.
Yeah. So just keep practicing and just take pictures, because you have to just think that everyone started somewhere. Just keep that in mind.
I wanted to thank you for all the insights and also valuable information, I think. And like, I think I have a clearer picture where to start and how to go about some things.
Oh, I'm so excited to see what you do next. Just I hope you share some of your traveling photos and that you get someone that you can take pictures of to practice.
I'm working on that and see where it goes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was really fun. I'm glad to get to do this.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Bye. Thanks for listening to Sustainable Photography. Head over to Instagram at Ingvild Kolnes to tell me what you want future episodes to be all about. Check out the show notes over at ingvildkolnes.com/podcast. You can learn more about the Sustainable Photography program and sign up for the waitlist there. To get more of this content, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your support makes all the difference. Talk soon.